Good morning, everyone. Hi, hello. My name is EJ, and I am back again with another narrated or time lapse video for us to watch. And hopefully, you could learn a thing or two from it. So yeah, this is absolutely one of my favorite pieces that I have done last year. The prompt for this one is something like icy isolation. I think I might have changed the prompt around or changed the wording of it. But it was a prompt for the monthly challenge over at kritaartist.org from January of 2024. And if I'm not wrong, like the whole idea behind the prompt was basically to denote like an environment, like a frozen landscape of some sort. I think that was really what the main challenge was, but obviously I spun the prompt around to interpret it my way. And I kind of thought of illustrating a lone trekker going through the storm. So it still kind of denotes the idea of being in an icy environment and being completely isolated. So I think it still kind of fits the theme, but it's not an environment piece. It's more of a character piece. So yeah, I love twisting prompts around just because, yeah, it's my jam, I guess. So that, or maybe I'm just super dyslexic and I misunderstand things. So anyways, but yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces that I did yesterday. As a character work, I thought I did a really great job illustrating this person. I love the details that I put on it. And more importantly, I love the colors that I used on it. I thought the colors was pretty unique. A lot of icy environments and a lot of frozen environments typically has a much cooler palette than what most people would use. The reason why is because snow typically reflects a lot of the sky, and so it has a lot of bluish tint to it. Most people, when they see snow, they think, oh, it's just plain, white. There's no subtle hues on it, but in actuality it takes a lot of hues from the sky. So if the sky is clear, for example, and there's like the blue sky, barely any clouds, it typically reflects on the snow. So a lot of paintings that has snow on it will typically have some sort of bluish tint to it, and this bluish tint kind of lends a lot of cooler tone, I guess is a better way for me to put it. It denotes a lot of cooler tone for a lot of snowy environments, and that is absolutely one thing that I wanted to do differently in this illustration. I wanted it to be warm, even though the theme in itself kind of denotes like icy isolation. It denotes this whole being isolated, being in a cold environment, being, apart from civilization. Yet I really wanted to denote this whole warmth to the piece. Even though the prompt in itself kind of denotes being isolated and whatnot. And so that's the reason why my color choice for this particular piece, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of what I did, because there's hardly any blues. There's hardly any cool colors on there. Majority of the colors that I use for this piece are warm browns, some reds. The warm browns that I use are almost kind of leaning towards green, because a lot of the warm browns I use has a little yellowish tint to it, and of course yellow is right next to the green hue, so it kind of has like an almost greenish tint to it. So yeah, in a way there's like a little bit of cool colors on the piece, but for the most part it's warm. It's just browns and reds and yellows, and some oranges. So yeah, I thought that was like super, super cool. I remember when I finished this painting last year, I was just really happy with the result. I thought the result was really, really awesome. So yeah, but anyways, I typically do my little review of the piece towards the end of the video, but I accidentally kind of went off on a tangent and started talking about the colors because I'm really proud of the colors, but that's fine. It's okay to go off tangent sometimes. Let's go back real quick and talk about all the things that had transpired the past 5 minutes. The very first moment in the video, the first few seconds in the video, was devoted to me coming up with a character or posting a character in Cascadeur. I've mentioned Cascadeur, that software, before in several of my other videos. Cascadeur is an animation software. It is amazing. If you do animation, I highly suggest it. Cascadeur makes posting characters super easy. Like, I just love that tool so much. I had the free version of it. They had like a free promotion of the software, like a free version of it for like a year, like the first year it came out, right? So in a way, I was like one of the early adopters, right? And for that first year that I had it, I used it extensively, and it was amazing. Now, I thought about buying it, but I really couldn't justify the cost of buying it, simply because I really just mainly use it for illustration, for posting characters for illustration. I don't do a whole lot of heavy animating. So in the end, I just resorted back to using my old dummies that I use in Blender as my characters instead of using Cascadeur. But anyways, I use Cascadeur. I highly recommend it. It's an amazing piece of software. If you're into animation, definitely check it out. But in the first few seconds of that video, that's what you saw me do. You saw me post a character in Cascadeur. As soon as I had that character post, I imported it to Blender, set up my 3D scene in Blender. It was very easy. It was very quick, because aside from the character, all I really needed to do was add kind of like a stand-in, a block-in for the carriage that she's pulling, the sled that she's pulling. I was trying to figure out the word. So I had a block-in for that. I also had a block-in just for the snowy hill part, because I knew that the character was going to be going down, so I kind of had to indicate that. But yeah, it was really easy to set up. And then aside from that, I just did generic lighting on Blender. I knew that I was going to have my character set to be in a storm, and in a storm, or like a snowstorm of sort, the lighting condition is generally ambient, where the light source comes from all around. So I set up like an ambient light source. Basically, I didn't have a direct sunlight because I knew that the sunlight wasn't really going to be present in a snowstorm. Oh, there is a greenish tint. I'm sorry, I'm like looking at the video right now, and I realized that the palette I use had very desaturated greens, and so that's why I'm like seeing the green in it. So it was mainly yellows and greens that I used for this palette. So I do take it back. There are some cool colors in this piece. Those greens are definitely cool colors, but in the end, you don't see it as much, because really it's the reds and the yellows that predominated the piece. So that was cool. That was cool for me to see that. In case you missed it, on the top right, I had a palette set up, and when I laid down the colors, and some of the colors that I laid down was green. So if you want to rewind back and take a look at it, it's going to be in the top right, the palette I use. And very quickly, just to talk about the palette. The palette, I typically get it from Color Palette Cinema. It's such a great resource. They have an Instagram page. I would just grab that little color bar that they have at the very bottom of the photos that they post, and that's basically what I base a lot of my palettes on. I have like 16 palettes that I got from Color Palette Cinema. It's such a great tool for me to start out a lot of my illustrations. So, but yeah, that was cool to see. Sorry, I had to drink water. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, the process so far. After I got my render from Blender, I obviously imported it to Krita, and then of course I used that 3D render as my basis for my sketch. Basically, I quickly put down some sketches, ideate some ideas for her outfit, and basically kind of settled on this piece that I have in front of us. I basically so I quickly sketch out her outfit, and then after I quickly sketch out her outfit, I went back and did a clean line sketch. And if you take a look at the video earlier, I actually spent a great amount of time doing the line sketch. This is kind of like a new practice for me, because really lately I've been doing speed paints, right? Or for the longest time I was practicing my speed paints just because I wanted to get really fast with my process, and it has helped me tremendously. But I find that the longer time I take with my line sketch, the better my speed painting processes are. So it's kind of added some time to my illustrations. Before, I was trying to aim for like a 5-hour mark on some of my illustrations. Some of my illustrations have gone longer. They've gotten to be around 7 hours, 11, 12 hours. But some of those 11, 12 hour works are just amazing. And a lot of that time spent on those sessions are spent on a good line sketch, and so yeah, I really wanted to take my time on this piece and do a good line sketch, because I knew that it was gonna turn out really good. It's basically like my foundation for the whole illustration, and I knew like a really good foundation for an illustration is important. So that's why I decided to take my time and do that good clean line sketch. And quite frankly, quite personally, I thought that line sketch was top notch. This is hands down one of my favorite line sketches that I've done for a character. So I thought that was super cool. And then of course, once I started painting things out, it got even better. So having that good foundation obviously was super cool. But anyways, I laid down my line sketch. After laying down my line sketch, I colored it really quickly. I used the palette like we mentioned earlier, the yellows and greens. Laid it down really quickly, and then as soon as I laid down the colors that I wanted to use, I went back and concentrated a little bit on the values. Typically what I would do when I concentrate on the values is go back and just have a brush set on multiply and kind of add like ambient occlusion shadows, pretty much is what I consider it as. It's like the shadows that would generally occur in the shadowy areas and the crevices and whatnot, and just general shadows that would be caused by the general lighting conditions in the piece. So I went back and added those shadows. Basically, I used to add highlights, but sometimes when I do that, the colors just end up being too far out bright, so I started skipping that, and basically just kind of add my lights back in during the painting process. But yeah, so I laid down my colors, did my shadows, merged all of those all in one layer, smudged them all to get my base paint, and then after I get my base paint, I started detailing, which is basically what we're taking a look at. Is me detailing the piece, adding the light back in, darkening the shadows, and delineating my edges, making things sharper, adding the details in the fur, because in the line sketch I didn't really add the details in the fur, but as you can see, I'm like really detailing that outfit of hers. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing this for the next couple of minutes. Let's just watch the show for now, and I'm gonna go back again with my commentary in just a little bit and just talk about my overall feelings about this piece. So yeah, I'm also gonna drink water because my throat is dry. So anyways, enjoy the show. right, so this piece is pretty close to being finished, so I'm just gonna go ahead and round up this video with my own self-critique on the piece and kind of like my sharing my sentiments about what I like and what I didn't like and whatnot. Before I go over that though, like one of the things that I wanted to mention was the face, or is the face. The end illustration or the final illustration has a completely different face than the one that we've been taking a look at for the past 20 minutes. I was not happy with the way I rendered the face. You know, I've messed around with it so many times. You can see throughout the video that I went back to the face like a few times just because I was never happy with it. In the end, like maybe in the last few seconds or so, which really translated into like the last hour or 2 hour of my session with this piece, right? I basically just pulled a face that I got from pixels.com. Great resource site, do check it out. So yeah, I pulled like a random face from pixels.com and just used that as a reference to kind of get that upturn look face, because the camera is basically set low looking up, right? And like that angle, like I couldn't get the angle on the face right. Like if you look at her nose looks like it's upturned, but you know, it's really her nose that bothered me so much, because the camera is set low that the angle of the nose should be something to that effect, but it felt like it was too upturned, right? And I couldn't get the placement right and whatnot, and so pulling a reference helped me a lot, right? And so I ended up having to switch the face out. I put it up for a vote, like which face was good, on creativeartist.org. Oh, here I am editing the face. And a lot of the people like the original face better. This face that I ended up using, they didn't really like. But in the end, I still went with the second one just because I felt like it looked way more natural than the original one I did. So yeah, here's me working on the face just because I just wasn't happy with it. But anyways, I wanted to point that out because obviously the end product had a totally different face than the one we've been taking a look at for the past 20 minutes or so. But yeah, let me go again on my critique. I've already mentioned the colors. I absolutely love the use of the colors in this one. It's a lot warmer than most snowy scenes. A lot of snowy scenes are typically, you know, blues and whatnot. Obviously this one isn't. Oh, I didn't realize I went through so many faces. Oh yeah, I forgot I went through so many faces. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm distracted with what's going on in the video. I love the colors. Just absolutely love the colors. I thought it was cool. I love how it fades into the back because of the storm. Obviously, during a snowstorm, visibility is really low. So I really love how like that sled that she's carrying is faded into the background. I thought that was really cool. I added a vignette towards the end of the video. I thought that was super cool too. That was an idea by Alexia from creativeartist.org. She suggested I add a vignette to the piece, and that helped tremendously in the look of it. But yeah, I mean, there's just all these cool things that I like about this piece that I thought was just super successful and looked super cool. And as a character illustration, I seriously thought that this was one of my favorite character illustrations. I just thought it just came out really good. And I think it's kind of funny how I ended up with a really good character illustration from a prompt that's supposed to denote an environment. So I thought that was super cool how that turned out. So, but yeah, anyways, yeah, I love this piece, and there it is, the end product. So thank you guys for watching this with me. I hope you guys learned a thing or two from it. I will catch you guys in the next video. Good night.